As soon as I started using these, I noticed something I wasn't expecting, and it changed how I think about headphones in this price range. It wasn't the sound, and it wasn't the noise cancellation. Not at first. It was something much more subtle, and it only revealed itself after a full day of wearing them. The first time you pick up the Anker Soundcore Space One, there's this immediate impression of lightness. You expect a certain heft from over-ear headphones packed with noise-canceling tech, but these feel almost airy. The majority of the construction is plastic, but it's a dense matte finish plastic that doesn't creak or groan when you twist it. It has a fine-grained texture that completely resists fingerprints, which is something I appreciate more and more. After days of handling them, they still look like they came just out of the box. The ear cups have this floating 8-degree rotating pivot that Anker calls an adaptive design. In practice, it means when you put them on, you don't feel any single pressure point. Instead of clamping onto your head, it feels like they're just resting there, held in place by a gentle, even pressure from the soft-touch headband. Foam inside the ear cups is slow rebounding and feels cool to the touch initially. They're deep enough that the tips of my ears don't press against the driver housing inside, which is a major comfort factor over several hours. Every moving part feels intentionally damped. The hinges don't snap into place, they fold with a smooth hydraulic-like resistance. When you adjust the headband, each click is soft and muted. Not a sharp plastic crackle. The buttons are the same, they have a short travel and a quiet, satisfying click that you feel more than you hear. There's nothing about the physical object that feels loud or harsh. It gives off this quiet confidence like it's designed to disappear once you put it on. It sits on my desk folded up, compact and unassuming. It doesn't scream for attention. I paired them with my phone and laptop, and the first time I played music, I immediately noticed the bass. It's not a muddy, overwhelming bass, but a very present, punchy low end that gives everything a dose of energy. These are definitely tuned for a fun, consumer-friendly sound, with an amplified U-shaped frequency response that elevates the lows and the highs. For podcasts and YouTube videos, voices are clear, but for music, that tuning means the mid-range, where vocals and guitars often live, can sometimes feel a little pushed back in the mix. It's not something you'd notice unless you were listening critically, but it's there. My moment of discovery came on the second day. I was working in a coffee shop and the headphones adaptive noise cancellation was on. I was doing a decent job of dueling the background chatter and the hum of the air conditioner. Then the barista started grinding a big batch of coffee beans. It's a loud, high-pitched grating noise. Without me touching a thing, I felt the noise-canceling profile shift. The grinding sound didn't vanish, but it was suddenly pushed much further into the background, as if the headphones detected the new threat and recalibrated on the fly. It was a seamless, subtle adjustment that made the environment significantly less distracting. That said, there is one little quirk: the soundstage. The sense of space and distance in the music is quite narrow. Instead of feeling like you're in a room with a band, the audio feels like it's happening directly inside your head. It's a very intimate listening experience, which is common for closed-back headphones, but it's more pronounced here than on some others I've used. Compared to the older Soundcore like Q30s, for example, the sound in the Space One feels a bit more contained, even if the features are more modern. It's not a big deal for casual listening on the go, but it's something you notice when you sit down and really try to get lost in the track. When you scroll through the official product page, you can immediately see what Anker wants you to believe these headphones are about. They splash 2x stronger noise reduction and 98% noise reduction in big, bold text. They're clearly framing this as a direct shot at the premium market, using lab-tested numbers to make their case. And to be fair, the noise cancellation is very good for blocking out mid and high-frequency sounds like people talking. But what surprised me is how little they talk about the character of the ANC. They emphasize its raw power, but the real-world experience is more about finesse. My experience in the coffee shop with the adaptive system adjusting on its own is, to me, the real headline feature. Yet it's just a small bullet point about adapting to the environment. They also heavily market the 40mm dynamic drivers and high-res LDAC support, focusing on the hardware specs. But again, the real story isn't the drivers itself, it's the specific U-shaped tuning they've applied, which creates that exciting but not neutral sound. I always find it interesting what brands emphasize, and what the day-to-day experience actually reveals. The marketing is all about power and specs, but the reality of using the Space One is more about comfort, convenience, and a very specific type of sound. After a few days, the Space One headphones just became part of my routine. Their sheer lightness and the multi-point Bluetooth 5.3 connection made them incredibly easy to live with. I'd be watching a video on my laptop, a call would come in on my phone, and the audio would switch over automatically without a single stutter. That's the kind of feature that removes friction from your day. I found myself reaching for them not just for music, but for any task where I needed to just quiet the world for a bit, even without anything playing. The battery life is genuinely forgettable in the best way possible. I use them for several hours a day with ANC on, and I only had to plug them in once over the course of nearly a week. The advertised 40 hours with ANC enabled feels completely accurate. Something I didn't expect to appreciate so much was the transparency mode. With a lot of headphones, transparency mode sounds artificial and hissy. Here, it's one of the most natural sounding I've heard. It genuinely just sounds like you've taken the headphones off. I could have a quick conversation without ever breaking my workflow. At first, I was conscious of wearing them, but by day 3, that feeling was gone. They became the kind of gear you stop thinking about while you're using it. The comfort is so consistent that they just blend into the background. You don't really notice how much the quiet and convenience changes your setup until you go back to something else. Of course, nothing is perfect. The most noticeable thing for me is the sound quality when you're really paying attention. That fun, punchy sound is great for a lot of genres, but it's not for purists. If you listen to a lot of acoustic music, classical, or anything with complex mid-range instrumentation, you'll notice that vocals and instruments can lack a bit of presence and detail. It's not a deal breaker for most people, but it's there. Another thing I kept noticing is that while the active noise cancellation is fantastic with office chatter or the hum of a fan, it's only average when it comes to deep low-frequency sounds. It struggles to fully cut out the low rumble of a bus engine or the deep drone you hear on an airplane. It dampens it, for sure, but it doesn't create that silent void that more expensive headphones can achieve. It's one of those things that only becomes obvious when you're in a specific environment that challenges it. Finally, while the white model I have looks clean, the material feels like it could get dirty or stain easily over time. It hasn't happened yet, but it's something I'm conscious of when throwing it in my bag. And while the build is solid for the price, there have been some user reports about the ear cups showing wear after a couple of years of use, which is something to keep in mind for long-term durability. So, who are these actually for? If you're the kind of person who prioritizes all-day comfort, incredible battery life, and solid noise cancellation for a typical office, cafe, or commute, these are absolutely worth it. The convenience of the multi-point connection and the quality of the transparency mode make them a fantastic daily driver for work and casual listening. But if your day mostly involves critical music listening, or if you're a frequent flyer who needs to eliminate the absolute lowest rumbles of a plain cabin, the difference may not be what you're looking for. The sound signature is colored and the low-frequency ANC is in top tier. For that, you might need to look at more specialized or expensive options. For the price though, using these brings a sense of quiet satisfaction. They do exactly what they promise without any fuss, and they do it comfortably all day long. They're a workhorse, not a show pony. And sometimes that's exactly what you need.